Yeah, this thing closed off again. All right, well, I'll just leave it at that. So a life coach telling my friend who's passing away on ALS that chocolate, one of the few things he can eat, he's only eating because he's filling an, quote, empty spot inside of him. And she's never met him before and only come to the house because he's a known person on this island, and his wife let this person in. And his wife isn't protecting him. And it's his house, and I don't really want to start something. And his child's right there. And this woman clearly has an empty place inside of her, as these life coaches do, that she was filling with what little dignity he had left. Just because he had told her something personal about being able to eat chocolate while not being able to move most of his body and his throat in a lot of ways. Can you imagine that? Telling this person, this virtually totally incapacitated man, that the only reason he's eating one of the few foods he can eat while he's spending the life of a child is because he has some kind of nameless emptiness inside of him. And I've met women like this, and they're the most disgusting creatures on the earth. What a disgusting puke of a human being. Market for pukey people that has been developed in the New Age and spiritual world. Motherfucker. And I could tell you every point in my life since I was a child that these pukey fucking types of women who didn't always call themselves life coaches or anything, which only just makes them feel better about, have been coming up to me and offering unsolicited advice, whether you think it's accurate or not. Your heart this, your stomach that, your spirit this. My fucking... It'd be like me coming up to him and saying, do you think you're a bit fat? You know, do you think there's like something weak in your life that maybe I could help you with if you give me your email? Here's mine. This is the type of person, woman who comes up to me or touches me without my consent. Moves my heart and says, oh, you've got problems there. I had a man once say to me, oh, you've got to soften your solar plexus. It's like, that's a good way to make my solar plexus want to choke the life out of you. Right? It's a very mixed message. Unsolicited advice is violent. It's like punching me in the head and saying, you know what? You should just be softer as a person, because then my knuckles wouldn't hurt so much. This is the purulent guttural of working demons. They're just working demons. They're working people. They're always working it, right? I just, as a feeling person, it's just horrifying. Yeah, I told one of these last fuckers who came and sat down near me without my consent and so forth. And I said, and she's offering me her life coaching phone number, and she's trying to form a rapport with me by making overly familiar statements about kind of like her. And she was on the path like me. And these women, and I've been around them, they always talk about being on the path and that, you know, I'm behind them on the path, but I'll get to where they're on the path. And they're sociopaths, essentially. And they're sexualized by the system. They have no good judgment of their own, and they use and different identities to prey on men. And they're hardly even women. And I tell her that, you know, I wait a few seconds, and I say, you know, I faced a lot of sexual harassment in this area. And I'm probably not going to take you up on your offer. Laughs. She actually laughs. It's like, oh, it's good to know that that happens to men too. Right? Oh, like she knows exactly what I'm talking about. She doesn't. She's not curious about what I mean or how I feel or how awful and horrifying it would be to be sexually harassed by anyone. Right? She has no idea, no understanding. It's probably never happened to her for all she knows, because she's a predator. People don't sexually harass predators. Or if they do, it's a completely different thing that's going on. You know? And I've known male and female predators who use each other in bed. And you mistakenly think, like, I talked to the guy, I was like, you're using this woman. And I found out, like, the woman was also using him. It was, like, disgusting. They were both just fucking each other. They were fuck buddies. They were just raping each other. Just using each other for sex. You know? And they could scarcely distinguish either of their predatory behavior. And just so you know, this woman eventually broke into my house, and I found her in my kitchen, and she had a home of her own, making herself toast with my toaster. And I just sort of was polite with her, and eventually she just left. She left, and that was it. She's a she's a known local family on Salt Spring, Shea Bourne, and she just broke into my house. Found her in the kitchen. You know, she's mentally ill, right? She's lost a lot of her inhibitions. And she would have all kinds of healers and parties over her house. I never went. And one of them, sexually harassed me in public. This man that was staying at her house, and he was a breatharian guru, a rebirthing guru. Really, rebirthing. I wouldn't want you around my birth, you fucking piece of shit. Well, the rain is stopping. The sun's coming out of it, so we'll get walking. Yeah, so the female sociopath actually laughed. And you get this idea that women really don't know sexually harassed, and they don't care. In that sense, women are all sociopaths. They've been socialized and sexualized in similar ways that are inherent in the types of personality complexes demanded by what they take to be the realities of the world. Right? And no sociopath behaves, but they believe in what they call basically the reality. They're real people. I can see clearly now. The rain is gone. You should say the pain is gone. I can see all the obstacles. Obstacles. Imagine if you purposely mispronounced the English language. Oh, I faced many obstacles. Many obstacles indeed. So many obstacles that I dare say you could not count them on both of your hands or feet, even if they were, which I can see for some of you, they probably are. Your genetic gene pool has been so shallow for so long, you're actually starting to stay fishes. The loaves and fishes are the fishes and the loaves and deuces which they make. I want to induce your deuces. I want to make you deuce it up. My name is Harry. It's like a douchebag. Tequila. The first music I ever owned, my mom and dad gave me this thing. I forget the guy's stupid name. I think it was Engelbert Humperdinck. Yeah. So that was the first. I was so cool when I was, whatever, 12, 13 years old. I was listening to Engelbert Humperdinck, and it was like, it's like, I still have it in my head. Listening to that tape on my F-150 in like 1990 or something, 1988. Walkman. A Walkman was like what you played cassette tapes in. It was a Walkman. I guess you'd walk with your Walkman. I like how they built that into it, right? It's kind of like the iPod. You put your eye into it. And maybe you stick a little bit of your pod in there too. It's like, I thought the iPod was something else. I thought I could keep my pod in there. I guess I can in a way, but it requires special tools. And the headphones, which were like these really uncomfortable plastic things that you probably still get on airplanes or libraries in the middle of Timbuktu, and with some kind of foam that hardly protects your beautiful sensitive inner ear from various rubber prongs, which were designed with no thought what they do to your ear, given that the guy who was doing the foam covering was like, no, I assure you, you could stick like hypodermic needles in there and that's not going to touch them. But the foam was fucked. And the foam guy was on meth or something, because the foam was never enough. And eventually, after you've had them for a few days or a few weeks, it was just like, God, it's painful listening to music. It actually makes you not want to listen to music. It trains you not to. And you're like, if only they had better earphones. Well, you had to wait 20 years. They eventually came along. And even then, it's like, rather, it didn't require anything. And it just, you had to be like a schizophrenic. It's like, do you hear that? Oh, I thought that was my iPod. You know, wait a second. So let me shuffle it. Here we go. Tequila. I got an inner iPod. It's on shuffle. I've got it on reggae now. Stand up, get up. Don't just play with yourself. It's got all interesting lyrics when it's protest to my subconscious. You will never see a vagina. But that's okay. No, you. When you are happy and to take a deuce. Deuce. Get up, stand up. Don't take the bitch abuse. Get up, stand up. Smoke some weed today. Smoke some weed today. Because if you're 50, it's not okay. It becomes totally uncool again. Age of 30 is like, you smoke weed, walk around, and talk to yourself. Well, the way I think of it, I think most people put their weird little world into their occupation. You know, I'm like, I'm a hairstylist. And then if you lived inside your mind, it's like, you're not a hairstylist. You're a comedian, or you're a novelist, in your mind. You're a therapist. You're a survivor. Your occupation is to heal the world by keeping all of your deepest pain secret from us dumb fucks who aren't able to understand it even if you try, which means in some sense we're part of society that's just choking you to death, and I'm sorry. Right? So we really do have to let people speak. No one does this for us. Even feminism can't do it for us. You have to let people speak. And the best way I can do that is let myself speak when I'm by myself. And I really do believe it helps your brain. That doesn't mean everything is like absolutely like talk to yourself 24 hours a day, but I think smart people often do speak to themselves a lot. You're using your voice. If you're a writer or a comedian or anything, I bet you make, you're talking to yourself. You're like, I got one with a teapot. I had one with Captain Kirk and Deanna Troi, and something about her cupping his balls and making him come. And it was just like, it was the funniest joke I ever heard in my life. I swear, I thought I gotta write that shit down. And it just was a combination of things, almost going to the dramatic and including what I consider a pretty good impression of William Shatner, boldly coming where no man had come before in the tube lift. But it wasn't just that he was grabbing his balls. It was that, in a way, he was programmed to enjoy it. She was dominating him, and it was just, and if you combine Captain Kirk with William Shatner's life, it makes a lot of sense. So it had sort of cultural connotations if you ever followed this man's career, and he's one of those men. I'm not sure if this is true, by the way, because it's just hearsay. But whatever happens in the public view is not necessarily all real. But his wife kind of took all his Star Trek money, right? Which I'm sure she's saying, but he did things to me. You wouldn't believe it. I needed that money. I needed it. I demanded it for my children. You've had your skin replaced by Hindu monks 15 times. It's like, I needed that. So, women can be a bit excessive. And I've learned something, too, this kind of litigious nature women can get into, in hating their husband for whatever reason, is that it is encouraged by the law. The last thing you want to do is marry a woman who hasn't lived around them normally, but is becoming closely associated with lawyers. And you're a man, and she's... Because what do you think they're going to tell her to do? Because, women complain. They do. And they slander men all the time. Oh, my husband, he's just like... He's not the way I thought it would be. Does he hurt you? Well, it hurts. When he comes home and he's unhappy about what I said on the credit card, and he raised his voice the other day in front of our 8-month-old child. Oh, that's infidelity of the highest order. He's practically fucking your next door neighbor. I think he is. And it's slander, and women, when they're drinking wine and things like that, they get themselves right up. They might as well be generals. And it's like a dystopian war against human testicles. Women are ferocious. They're fucking ferocious. Whether I've been around them, whether they're talking about fucking children or killing their husbands, the murderous energy, women have a lot inside of them. You would say it's industrial, it's oppression, but it's there. And that it's there, right, does things to them. And it allows them to combine that energy to do awful things to men that the law offers them the means to do and to remedy. They have a lot of advantage. When a man gets married, his balls are on the block, one way or the other. It's a black magic. It's totally reversed. The woman should be in black and the man should be in white. Because she's Sophia and he's Sophia. She's Sophia in the capacity of sacrificer, and he's Sophia, the black Sophia, as the sacrificed, right? Right? Pedophilia, right? Ophelia is the sacred feminine, right? So, if you're attacking children, you're a pedophile. I say teachers are pedophiles because they're representing a false feminine energy to children, which is of a financial nature of basically consuming them out of love. The whole system is a misrepresentation of the female vagina. So I might seem misogynistic in a lot of things I'm saying, but I'm actually quite extremist feminist. I'm absolutely into getting to the ultimate fucking source of everything disruptive that's been introduced to the human race in the birth and growth of our flesh and blood. Absolutely. I'm like, the best world, absolutely, is the one where women are the happiest. Right? Absolutely. The best world is the one where we make appropriate reparations in a healthy, shameful way that improves all of our lives because we've hurt ourselves in every way that we've hurt other races and women and the indigenous and the intuitive and the powerful and even the very ferocious way that women can behave and can be exploited, in the sense that when women are challenged and their survival is constantly threatened, as mine or anyone's, they will learn very bad habits. They will find ways to become warlike to their men. And feminism wants us to at least consider this, or at least definitely consider this, because women must always be given this consideration. We look at what the violence they're capable of doing, because I think that's remarkable, and we need that. We vent the anger, because if you've been violated like me as a man, although there's a wider world and a wider philosophy of why this is happening, it's probably not women's fault. Nonetheless, you're bound to get a little angry when someone takes a ball peen hammer to your testicles every other week, with an alcoholic mother, wife, or roommate, right? So there's the anger. Now, the anger has knowledge, and that knowledge and that anger is not going to be satisfied by hurting a woman. Just isn't. So trust that. The anger will never be satisfied hurting women. I would never be satisfied hurting women. I've been mistreated by women so many times, and the only thing I've ever done is tell people they should be fired. That's it. It's like... And sometimes they have been. Because women get really weird with me sometimes. Look at it. They do. They get wrong. They get inappropriate. And it's a sex thing. And men do the same thing to women. But it's gotten worse as I've gotten older. I never used to notice it. It was a better life. I know it wasn't, because I know ultimately it was just as harmful, if not more, that I wasn't noticing how women were treating me. And luckily I've received a little advice from a man I know, and just more attention. He's very observant to how I let women in. Usually older females, or any woman that just comes up and talks to me, who really does expect to form an instant rapport with me because of how I make her feel. It's absolutely disgusting. And I never do that to women. No woman has ever made me feel like doing that in the slightest. Like, I'm so well trained as a man not to be a predator. Men, in a sense, should. It's not fair. You can be angry about it. And women take advantage of it. But men basically have to make sure that women know they're not going to hurt them. It doesn't matter if some woman is like using a ball peen hammer in your testicles. You're like, I don't hit women. I don't hit women. Because the law basically says she's hitting your testicles with a ball peen hammer because she can't help it based on what men have done to her. It's unfortunate she's chosen you. There's a good chance you deserve it anyway, but even if you don't, you do, and that's the law. So men don't know that, but that's true. That's the law. That's, it's a feminist. We're not feminist enough in many respects, because this is all in service of understanding the root. If you learn to understand the root, you have to start taking action. And so feminism has taken action in the world, and governments have taken action. And I might regret saying this because I never like anything the world does. But let's face it, women have made the world take action. Whether it's all women have made the world take notice. They finally did it. And just think about how long they have to scream and wait and suffer patiently. And we've only just begun, right? And adding voices about violence that they've experienced from women, and maybe even all women, is going to have to be part of it, right? You know that. Women know that, men know that. I'm new on the scene. I'm very new to the subject in many respects, even though I've been a feminist all my life. I think as a child I was a feminist. Before there was feminism, I was a feminist. I will always be a feminist. But I won't be the same kind of feminist as people on television. I don't, I have the right as a feminist to say, I don't think some people are as feminist as other people. You may not think I'm as feminist as the next girl, but I, like anyone else, I use it when I think it's right, when it serves me. And I love it that no matter how angry I am over the years, and I've been angry, that I can always come around to trying to honor feminism. It's kind of like in the great pool of human agony, it's the lifeguard. We're all going to flap around and hurt each other sometimes, some more than others, and some have better reasons than others, and some are women and some are men. Men are assholes and women are all angels. But and they're not. And don't force them to be, because if they cannot be an angel, they can be a human, and they can be a hurt woman. And if that's what they are, it's better to treat them as they are, right? I mean, academically, not interpersonally, but anyway, that's pretty cool. But I'm glad I can come around to certain feminist boundaries on my anger. Not that I'd be insulted that someone would say, oh, I've gotten a lot of strikes for hate speech in many of my rants about women. You can imagine what they were like. I've had channels deleted within minutes of uploading rants against women. And at no point, I just want to make this clear, have I ever, slightly or in any way wished any kind of threat or harm to any woman on earth, right? So I suffer too, ladies. I suffer too. And I was never upset that YouTube stroked me. It's like, okay, I get it. I've gone over the bounds. I'm glad we have boundaries in the world. They're not fining me. They're not arresting me. They're just giving me a strike. I can make another channel. I've permanently lost the ability to use my computer to make videos. So that's why you don't see me at home making videos, because Google took that away from me. Now, in an interestingly, maybe creepily self-flattering sort of way, I like to think, maybe I could think that there's a rainbow. That this is because I'm such a profoundly intellectual human being who's speaking the truth, and evil people don't hear it. And that's true, perhaps. But again, I like earthly boundaries. I like the fact that nature and the world and YouTube have a way of saying, you know what, you have every right to be angry and tell intelligent, ferocious person when you're angry, and even when you're not. But people don't. They don't want to hear you. I've changed a lot, and because of those boundaries, I've improved my hatred of women, in as much as you might construe what I hate of women, which I allow that you may well do. But I, for myself, would like to say, I don't think so, because I love my mother, and I love nature. Look at this. See, that's for me, and if it's for me, it's for you. You know, channel. It's for all the people of the world who have access to the internet. Free rainbow today. Good for you. And for those of you who don't have access to the internet, this is also for you. But it doesn't matter because you don't have the internet, so you'll never hear this. So it's as though it never existed. In case, really, is nothing to worry about because there are other places and other rainbows. You're missing nothing. You've been deprived of the great honor and pleasure of seeing one of your rainbows. That do have connection to potable water and the internet, which would be seen by your people probably as not only a luxury but a curse. We are left alone, perhaps, in some enjoy it as though standing together in some lovely spit of land where I should be so fucking lucky to have to walk 20 miles to a well, because it would probably be better than what I do with most of my fucking time living in the so-called Western world, the seat and center of human wellness and human. Fuck you, you pieces of shit. That is not even nearly the case. It's amazing how the Western world has found a way to honor its death instinct, which is roughly construed by some philosophers as the immortality delusion. Right? In fact, both of the main reasons that people like being American and go to football games. It's, what's the name of that guy? I'll think of it in a second. Hey, oh, chicken baby low, baby low. Whoa. It's always good, if nothing else, to know that people are watching you. When I'm walking, sometimes it's like there's definitely places and people, always a little bit different. So Lyle down the street and Aquaman, call them, they have a sort of a reserved disrespect for me, and other people they're nicer. You know, it's a shame for them that as often as they may see me, that it must give them displeasure to do so. When in fact, I take none of the displeasure usually, other than the fact that I know that it's going to be over soon. And I say live there, they're going to see me and I'm going to see them sometimes. So it really wasn't a big deal in my life. It came along and I noticed that it seemed to be a big deal for them. And it's like, and when things of that nature become a big deal for people, it really is a big deal. And you have to honor that. It's like, oh, I'm a big deal for them. Okay. They don't know that I know that. Okay, so that's good. The reverse of this is that they're stalking me, but they don't know that they're stalking me. They know that they're stalking me, which in some sense will give them leave to stalk me more, or they'll stop by themselves. And sometimes when I do ritual, people will just stop stalking me. They'll see reason, meaning the spirit will intervene. And as I was doing ritual today, the ravens came along, now the eagle are calling. They make sure that everything gets to where it's going, because it is dangerous to me when people wish ill of me in any way. They may not know that I can tell, but there's different ways that humans can wish ill to each other, and needless to say, deserve that, because human words and human thoughts, lo and behold, are powerful, and people can feel that. Don't talk about people in your office, Don't gossip about people, because you're exposing them. They notice, maybe they've had people talk shit about them all their lives. A creepy guy staying in my house with his creepy friend, and he came in, he was not paying any rent, and threw some pictures in front of us and said, hey, would you like to have sex with her? And he knew a woman who was quite heavy who had allowed him to take photos of her, telling her how beautiful, and now was showing us these pictures in order to mock her. No, I didn't think she was attractive, and I didn't like her as a person, as it turned out, but I kicked him out of the house. I mean, that is just, to me, criminal, to speak so ill of someone. I knew a bit of her family, I knew a little bit what they've been through. This guy was an absolute narcissist, and I want women to know, this woman ended up stalking me, but it's like, I have my boundaries, man. And it's like, you're gonna wish ill to me all you want, but you're not gonna sit in my home and wish somebody else sick. You know, my fucking lord. It's just, what a fucking loser. And these types of people think they're so spiritual. It's like, pick something else to make fun of, you know? Pick someone else, you know? They're just predators. They think they're so spiritual. You know, the guy had like gurus and all kinds of stuff. Oh man. And you can feel, I think as I talk about him, you can feel the emptiness. His father was RCMP. You know? You just feel the emptiness in his life. The complete emptiness of this person's world that he probably strives for and has molded into something glorious, which is something any of us could do. Maybe all of us have to do that in some way, but, you know, and I think that spirits are on me. Hold on. Okay, I acknowledge you. Sometimes that's all I'm talking a lot. And sometimes it could be a preacher nearby or something. And or they're just saying hi. And you know, nature likes my thoughts. You know, she knows what I'm about, as I hope you do as well. And maybe one day you could tell me. Put it into words.